Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us on a beautiful Colorado day. We are here at the Western Museum of Mining and Industry to share an exciting announcement. I'm Greg Sopkin. I am the Regional Administrator for Region 8 of the Environmental Protection Agency. Today we are joined by EPA Acting Associate Deputy Administrator Doug Benavento, Congressional Representative Dan Newhouse from the 4th Congressional District from the state of Washington, Congressman Doug Lamborn from the 5th District here in Colorado, Oklahoma State Secretary of Energy and Environment Ken Wagner, and Arizona Department of Environmental Quality Director Misael Cabrera. Thank you so much for being with us here today. So we are here for an announcement related to hard rock mining. Before I introduce Doug Benavento, I want to share a personal experience I have had that really opened my eyes to the importance of our mission with respect to mining. It was almost about a year ago that I toured a former mining site here in Colorado, which provides an excellent example of how, by working together, industry, communities, and state and federal agencies are addressing legacy mining issues. The site I'm referring to is the California Gulch, a Superfund site near Leadville, Colorado, which is about 18 square miles. The area includes the city of Leadville, parts of the Leadville Historic Mining District, and a section of the Arkansas River. EPA worked with the state of Colorado, the community of Leadville, and the site's potentially responsible parties to coordinate redevelopment and ecological restoration work across this 18-mile square area. After decades of cleanup, here are some key examples of how that effort was a success. The Colorado Parks and Wildlife honored the site with a Gold Medal Waters designation in 2014. As of December 2018, 192 on-site businesses employed 1,255 people and generated an estimated $110 million in annual sales revenue. Recreational use at the site includes the Arkansas River Trail, a 5-mile loop along the upper Arkansas River. And there's also a 250-home mixed-use development, which is currently underway, which includes commercial, retail space, single-family homes, townhouses, and condominiums. There's also a $1.5 million public sports complex. This is a great success story, and there are many more mining sites that can follow this example. This is one reason why we are here today for this announcement. It's great to be here again at the Western Museum of Mining and Industry. It's a beautiful place. I hope you check it out. On behalf of EPA Administrator Andrew Wheeler, I want to personally thank Grant Dewey, the Executive Director of the museum, as well as Dr. Richard Sowers, the museum curator, for hosting today's event. The museum's mission is to educate the public about the history and continuing contributions of mining, ranching, and other supporting industries in the American West. Starting with an old law dating back from the 1800s called the General Mining Act of 1872, this law helped foster the development of the West by giving individuals the exclusive rights over minerals they mined on federal land. Mining has helped make Western communities, and really the entire nation, more prosperous. The valuable minerals extracted have greatly contributed to our country's economy, its culture, and our way of life. The critical minerals that play an important part for our nation include gold, silver, copper, uranium, phosphate, platinum, zinc, gypsum, and silica, to name a few. They are vital components to products we use every day, such as your watches and your cell phones. But mining communities in the American West have also had to live with the significant environmental challenges related to historic mining and mineral processing. The situation is more challenging because many historic mining sites do not have any viable current or former owners or operators to address the cleanup of these mining sites. So now on to what we are here for today. It's my honor and privilege to introduce the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency Associate Deputy Doug Benavento. Mr. Benavento has had a long-standing career focusing on energy and the environment. He has served the country as a public servant for over 15 years. Currently, he is the President's nominee to be the Deputy Administrator of the EPA. Before his nomination as Deputy Administrator, Mr. Benavento was the Regional Administrator for Region 8 here in Colorado, which comprises much of the Mountain West. That's my current job, but I could tell you that you can take Doug out of Region 8, but you can't take Region 8 out of Doug, as evidenced by the phone calls I get almost on a daily basis. How's Butte going? How's Anaconda going? He is very much invested in the West. He cares deeply about the West and its environmental challenges, including hard rock mining. So Doug has to live in a shoebox in DC for his job, but he and his family call Colorado home, and they reside in Highlands Ranch, just south of Denver. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Doug Benavento.
Thanks, Greg. Thank you for the introduction. And I also want to thank the Western Museum of Mining and Industry for their hospitality in having us here today. So today, let me tell you what we're here to announce. We're here to announce the creation of a Mountains, Deserts, and Plains Geographic Program Office here in Colorado. What that means is we're moving decision-making out of DC into the West for issues that are uniquely important to the rest. As Greg rightfully noted, mining supports technology and our way of life, but historic mining practices have had a negative environmental impacts, and that's what we're looking to address today with this announcement. We've seen the impact of historic mining activities here in Colorado. Greg mentioned a couple of sites in Montana, Butte and Anaconda. Here in Colorado, Leadville, if y'all have been up there, is a big mining site that we're currently in the process of cleaning up. And of course, everybody's familiar with Bonita Peak Mining District, which is the site of the Gold King mine. What Administrator Wheeler decided is that we needed an office that would provide oversight, guidance, and technical assistance that would be closer to communities. We thought it appropriate to have an office among Western communities instead of DC. This office will deal with Western issues, and it should be here in the West. While our country is incredibly diverse, EPA recognizes that the West has distinct needs that aren't always effectively addressed through existing mechanism and resources. Therefore, the Office of Mountains, Plains, and Deserts will have a few tasks. First, more effectively leveraging existing EPA staff, expertise, and resources in hard rock mining cleanup. Next, improve EPA's ability to respond to a range of complex and unique issues associated with Western mining sites, and also to accelerate positive outcomes for the communities in the environment. What we're really looking at here is first, Superfund is a good example. So there are 63 mining Superfund sites across the West. When Superfund was developed back in 1980, I would argue, and this comes from my experience as running the state health department here, as well as my experience at EPA, that Superfund wasn't designed for these large sites. Some of these sites could be hundreds of square miles. Superfund was designed to address eastern sites that were smaller and more compact. What this office will do is it will bring a focus on how to address those larger sites. When you're looking at a large historic mining Superfund cleanup, you're dealing with groundwater, you're dealing with mine tailings, you're dealing with capping, you're dealing with people, because you could be doing blood lead testing, you could be cleaning up yards. That's a completely unique activity, and that's unique to the West. What we want is an office here in the West that is going to be able to work with communities, provide oversight on the regions to ensure that we're moving forward. One of the most important things this office is going to do is to put timelines together and to track progress to make sure that we're cleaning up these sites. If you follow this, you'll note that some of these sites have been on the list for 30 years. That's a long time to clean up sites, and communities want it done faster, and this office will have it done faster. Second, we want this office to be engaged and work on technical advancements that will clean up Superfund sites. So we want them to be working with our Office of Research and Development on new techniques that will be cleaning up sites. Some of it could be like passive treatment. Instead of a water treatment plant, which you have to operate forever, There are passive treatment techniques that may be available that we want to research that won't require the same O&M and will actually get you a better environmental outcome. So we also want this site, this office, to be working on technology transfer between the regions. What's working in Washington State? Well, maybe we could use that in Montana. What's working in Montana? Maybe that could be useful in Utah. So a better communication inside the agency of things that are working so that one site can learn from another site. We also want to address and coordinate among our partners in the federal government. There are abandoned mines on federal land, and there's a lot of work that happens in other federal agencies. We want this office to serve a coordinating function in that regard. Of great importance also is we want this office to focus on facilitating and in making more easy Good Samaritan cleanups. So Good Samaritan cleanups are when you have an organization, Trout Unlimited, it could be a nature conservancy, that wants to go to an abandoned mine and they want to do some work to clean up the site, but perhaps not all of the work. They want to do some remediation. Currently, under existing laws, there's the potential that if you do a little bit at the site, you're responsible for all of the site. We have programs in place to assist those who want to do Good Samaritan cleanups, avoid that outcome. What I want this office to do is focus on making that easier, making that a process as unbureaucratic as possible so that more people want to come and do it. We want to incentivize that. Some of this would require legislation to fix. I know Senator Gardner has a bill that would address some of the issues that we can't address as an agency, but until legislation is passed, we're going to do everything we can to make sure that those who want to do remediation work and clean up the environment have a partner and not an obstacle in EPA. Finally, and this is really important, we want this office to focus on abandoned uranium mine cleanup, particularly in Navajo Nation in Arizona and New Mexico. There's a lot of work there that needs to be done. The Navajos are very sophisticated and very motivated, and I want this office to focus and make sure that we're making progress down there because it is a significant public health issue, and we want to make sure that we are partnering and we're moving as quickly as possible with the Navajo to get this cleaned up. They're great partners and we want to work with them. So this office will also consolidate expertise with a singular focus on addressing mining sites. By placing the program out west, we're putting it in the communities where it will be working, and it's going to be it's going to, I think, make the work better, and it is going to make it more accessible to communities that have these issues. We have a great individual who's going to be leading it up, Shahid Mahmood, who's a 30-year EPA employee. You couldn't find a person in the country who's going to be better qualified to come and take this job and make progress doing it. So with that, I'm going to turn it back to Greg. I do thank you all for coming. I want to thank the Western Mining Museum again, and I'll kick it back to Greg and he can move us forward. Oh, one last thing. I do want to thank the couple of folks who aren't here too. Peter Wright, who runs our Olam office, this is his brainchild, and it was really a great idea. I'm a Westerner. I should have thought of it, but he did, so I have to live with that. I also want to thank Taylor Meredith, who's worked really, really hard on this and has really brought it to life. So thank you. Greg, now.
Well, thanks, Doug. We are also joined this morning by Representative Dan Newhouse from Washington's 4th Congressional District. He is a third-generation Yakima Valley farmer. He sits on the House Appropriations Committee, including the Subcommittee on Energy and Water Development. He's also the vice chair of the Congressional Western Caucus, which has a long history of dedication to these issues. Thanks so much for being here with us today, and I would invite Congressman Newhouse up to the podium to make some remarks.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here in the great state of Colorado. As you heard, my name is Dan Newhouse, and I have the honor of representing the 4th District of the state of Washington, which is essentially the center third of the Evergreen State. And believe it or not, much like here, this beautiful region of the country, my district is very similar. It's surrounded by vast landscapes of mountains, of grasslands, of forest lands, and therefore, along with that, an abundance of natural resources as well. I also, as you heard, join you as a proud member, I should say, of the Congressional Western Caucus. And what that is, it's made up of a large swath of members of Congress, mostly from the Western states, but not all. Many of the members of House and Senate are from all over the country, but they all share something in common. They all care very deeply about effective land management, preserving the uniquely American way of life in rural communities, and empowering local voices to have more of a say in land, in water, and in natural resource development decision making. So Senator Cory Gardner, Representatives Ken Buck and Doug Lamborn, as well as Scott Tipton, are all very active members of the Western Caucus and serve as strong, effective advocates for communities across Colorado. It's an honor, it truly is an honor to work alongside both of them. You heard that we are in Congressman Lamborn's district. It's a beautiful place, it truly is. And so thank you for allowing us to be here today, Doug. And I must say that Mr. Lamborn has been a strong advocate for exactly the reason why we are here. He's a strong proponent of the Good Samaritan Mining Act. And I think with the right push, we can make that a reality. And what we're doing here today, Doug, as well as Greg, I think will actually help in that effort. I'm a farmer in the rural West, so I know firsthand the frustrations and the struggles that can come with federal land use policies. For far too long, farmers and landowners and rural communities across the West have felt the federal government is out of reach and their approach, frankly, out of touch. Today's announcement by the Environmental Protection Agency to create the Office of Mountains, Deserts, and Plains is yet another step in the Trump administration that they have taken towards increasing transparency, increasing accountability in federal decision making, thereby empowering the voice of local communities. So by centralizing the decision makers on resource issues that matter to the communities in the West, including the hard rock mining and the legacy mining cleanup efforts, we can better ensure the federal government, their resources, their expertise, and their innovative technology are all being leveraged in the most efficient and the most scientific manner. So I see this as a victory. It's a victory for the environment, it's a victory for the taxpayers, and truly it's a victory for the American people. So I want to extend my sincere thanks, certainly to the Trump administration and the EPA officials that are here today. So Greg, Doug, thank you very much. Truly, your commitment to effective government and accountability will make great strides toward fostering stronger relationships and more trust with states, with tribes, with stakeholders, and local communities throughout the country. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Congressman Newhouse. So now I would like to introduce Oklahoma's Secretary of Energy and Environment, Ken Wagner. Secretary Wagner helps develop and advance policies that encourage energy exploration and production and responsible environmental stewardship throughout Oklahoma. We know and love Ken because he used to work with us for a couple years. He has a quirky sense of humor, but we invited him anyway. And we're so glad he could join us today in person. Welcome to the podium, Secretary.
Well, good afternoon. I should know better than to follow a congressman speaking. They're always very well spoken and polished. But what a beautiful day. Thank you to the Western Museum of Mining and Industry. What a beautiful monument to really the building of America and the importance that mining has played throughout our history. I'd like to thank Regional Administrator Sopkin for the kind introduction, and to Doug Benavento, the Acting Deputy Administrator, for his hard work in making sure this day occurred. And lastly, to Assistant Administrator Peter Wright and Administrator Andrew Wheeler for the vision to make this happen and to actually do it. Apparently, the Congressman believes what I believe, and that is when you put subject matter experts in the location that is most affected by the regulatory action or the regulation or regulatory policy that's going to occur, then you're going to achieve better outcomes, because those experts have the chance to work with local stakeholders, local governments, tribal governments, state governments, and federal partners who are invested in the area. We've seen these examples work to the benefit of Americans in the Chesapeake Bay program, the Gulf of Mexico office, the U.S.-Mexico border office in San Diego, the Great Lakes Initiative. These are all instances. And now, in that same vein, we'll get to talk about the Office of Mountains, Deserts, and Plains, of which we have all three in Oklahoma. Mining remains a vital and important part of Oklahoma's economy, from coal mining to hard metal mining to aggregates that are in our roads, bridges, and construction projects every day. But like many of the states represented in the West, we too have the legacy of some historical poor mining practices. In fact, this office will be vitally involved in one of the country's largest and most complicated mining Superfund sites called Tar Creek. It was a historic lead and zinc mine, and it spans actually 3 states. Oklahoma has the brunt of it, and it sits within at least 6 tribal jurisdictions. It sits within 2 U.S. EPA regions, Region 6 and Region 7, the central states, and as well as, again, working with the tribes. Recently, Assistant Administrator Peter Wright and Administrator Wheeler committed $75 million additional to remediate the Tar Creek site and help get to where it's close to being completed. And so we're very thankful for that. We're thankful for the opportunity to work with our partners at EPA locally and in the region, who will actually understand those challenges that we face, that our tribal governments face, that the localities who bear this face in both public health and in restoring and protecting our natural resources. Today is an important step towards better protecting our natural resources and restoring the habitats that make the West so unique. And we're looking forward to working for that. So on behalf of Governor Kevin Stitt, myself, and the state of Oklahoma, we would like to extend our sincere gratitude to the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency and Administrator Wheeler for his vision in making this happen.
Thank you, Ken. Our next speaker joins us virtually from sunny Arizona. Please join me in welcoming Arizona Department of Environmental Quality Director, Misael Cabrera.
Thank you, Greg. Today, I commend EPA for establishing a Western Lands focused office that will address the complex problems associated with hard rock mine cleanups. I'm encouraged by EPA's intent to concentrate on innovative yet practical solutions that respect local concerns. In my view, context is key to collaboration, and collaboration is key to solving problems that are complex. This is why I'm so excited about EPA's Office of Mountains, Deserts, and Plains. I'm also excited about EPA's work for Good Samaritan cleanups. In the state of Arizona, we have 2 Good Samaritan cleanups that are being done at the state level, with mining companies who are modern and have current clean operations taking over legacy abandoned sites, cleaning them up, and putting them to beneficial use. I support this strategic step and invite EPA to consider Arizona for the next geographic program-specific office. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Director Cabrera. Unfortunately, I don't have that authority, but we will pass that on. Our next speaker joins us virtually as well from Boise, Idaho. It's my pleasure to introduce Jess Byrne, Director of the Idaho Department of Environmental Quality.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you, Regional Administrator Sopkin. It's a pleasure to be part of this event representing the Idaho Department of Environmental Quality and to have the opportunity to provide a couple of brief comments. Here in Idaho, we are encouraged by today's announcement and the opportunity that EPA's new office focusing on Western mining sites presents. Mining has played a very important role in Idaho's history and continues to play an important role today. That said, there are many legacy environmental issues that still need to be addressed throughout the state. We are faced with the challenge of cleaning up and managing many of these legacy sites, whether it's at the expense of responsible parties, the federal government, or our own taxpayers. To minimize these financial costs, cleanup efforts need to be streamlined. A report released earlier this year by the Government Accountability Office indicates that Idaho is one of the top 3 Western states for non-federal expenditures devoted to addressing physical safety and environmental hazards at abandoned mine sites. In Idaho, our Department of Lands is responsible for operating our abandoned mine lands program, and they do a great job with the resources they have. However, there are currently many impediments to cleaning up sites, including liability concerns. We are hopeful that EPA's new approach and focused expertise will result in more site-specific options available to us and more on-the-ground improvements. We are supportive of any initiative that results in environmental improvements at these historic mining sites, particularly if it's not at an additional expense to our taxpayers. So we commend EPA for taking this outside of the box, results-oriented approach, and look forward to working with the new Office of Mountains, Deserts, and Plains. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Director Byrne. Before we wrap up today, let's turn our attention to the screen for a brief video on today's new office.
As we celebrate our 50th anniversary, EPA is proud to announce the creation of the Office of Mountains, Deserts, and Plains. This newly established Western lands-focused office will more effectively leverage existing staff, expertise, and resources. It will improve EPA's ability to respond to unique needs of Western states and accelerate positive outcomes for the environment for millions of Americans in the West.
All right, well, that's, I forgot to mention that Congressman Landborg's wife, Jeannie, is here. So thank you for coming, appreciate it. And thank you, Congressman, for all your support for what we do. I very much appreciate that. So that'll conclude today's event. I want to thank all our speakers today for their remarks about this important new office. And I want to again thank the Western Museum of Mining and Industry for hosting us here today. Hope you all have a wonderful day. Thank you.